And welcome to another Cardinals Nest. This is the show where we talk St. Mary's University athletics. I'm Dean Beckman, the faculty athletics representative, and my co-host, as always, is Donny Nadeau, our sports information director. We are coming to you from the Jerry and Pat Pappenfuss Multimedia Lab in Aquinas Hall on the campus of St. Mary's University. Donny, later on in the interview segment of our program, it's the last, but certainly not least, of our Hall of Fame inductee interview guests, as we're going to have two sports standout George Drouches on the program. We'll interview him later, and the Hall of Fame induction ceremony, though, is this Saturday. It's on March 11th at the Visions Event Center here in Winona as part of the Cardinal Excellence Fund Dinner.
And you are the MC of that, and so make sure that you don't talk too much here today, because you're going to need to save your voice for Saturday.
Voice, okay.
You know, we had the first annual CEF dinner last year with our Hall of Fame induction ceremony. It was really a neat setting, and it's always great to honor our Hall of Fame inductees, and looking forward to actually getting to talk to all of them on Saturday and see them in person rather than via Zoom as we did the interviews. So it's going to be a great day, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Yep, absolutely. So that's coming up this Saturday. But first, and we'll talk about all of the other sports that have been happening here at St. Mary's. And Donny, I don't know about you, but I didn't go anywhere nearly as warm as our tennis teams, our softball team, our baseball team. And so that's what we're going to focus on this show, as all of those teams I just mentioned went down to sunny and, from what I understand, very warm Florida for their spring break trip. We'll start out with baseball. They are now 3-5 overall as they open the season down there with some non-conference games.
Yeah, and I think they'd all like to go back down there with the forecast we're getting here in Winona. But you know, I talked to Coach Winnie. I actually just peeked my head in his door before we left here, and you know, as he put it, they did fine. They weren't too good, they weren't too bad, and really I think that's really what these spring trips are about. You know, one, you get to play some teams that you'll never usually face, but two, they get to see what they've got. You know, they had fall ball, but you know, this was for real, and really the first time that they've gotten a chance to see their players compete in competition. So you have to use it as kind of a measuring stick. Obviously, they both would, all the teams would like to come back without losses, but you can learn a lot from a loss as well as a win. So I think that 3-5, I'm sure he'd like to be at least 5-3, maybe 6-2, but you learn a lot from these games, and that's what they'll carry forward into whenever their next game is.
Well, and at least they won that last game. Makes getting on the plane a little bit easier.
Absolutely. And I think that it's also, we talked about it with volleyball in the fall. The trips that they take to these tournaments, it's a chance for the team to bond. It's a chance for the team to get together and kind of get to know each other on a different level than just on the baseball field. So there's a lot of value, and they got to spend 22 hours on a bus on the way down because of weather. They actually bused to Florida and then flew back. So they got to spend a lot of quality time together on the bus.
Yes, they did. And I don't want to get too deep into the statistics here, because obviously it's early, very small sample size, and with baseball that means a lot. But off to hot starts at the plate, Riley Bauman, Cameron Weber, Mason Coyle, Brandon Murfeld, all showed very well there in Florida.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things you see, and we've talked about this a lot, and next week we'll have Coach Winnicke on, and I certainly will ask him that again, but what you really look at is you've got some players now who seniors have graduated, and it's their turn. Time for them to step up and do their part. And I look at Riley Bauman as one of those people where, okay, you know what, it's your turn. Let's see what you got. And obviously he's he's answering that call. And I think that Brandon Murfeld and Mason Coyle, people who have played, but maybe not necessarily everyday players, and now they're getting that chance. And I think that that's very important. And I think that that'll really bode well for them. And that's kind of something that Coach Winnicke always has. It's, okay, bide your time. When your time comes and I need you, now I need you to respond. And he seems to have that recipe that really seems to work.
Yep, absolutely. So they've already got games canceled now against Wartburg, and I think looking at the long-term forecast, that might be more of the norm than not.
Yeah, and I think that anytime you schedule in March, you're you're throwing a dart at the board and saying, I hope it works, because Mother Nature. March is a snowy, cold month, and if you remember from last year, these guys were playing games in April in the 30s, and I think that you hope you can get the games in, but a home game on March 23rd against Superior just seems like that's going to be a tall order. Yeah. They still have to go to Illinois the next 2 weekends, not this weekend because Wartburg got canceled, but they'll play 6 games over the next 2 weekends in Illinois, which hopefully they'll be able to get those 6 in, and then we'll see how the field is. It's all up to Mother Nature whether or not we get games in when you're in the Midwest.
Right.
In March.
And it can flip quickly. Just as it's gotten cold quickly, it can warm up just as quickly.
We've actually played games this weekend at home, so it does happen. And I think that's what coaches, they kind of have to hope, because you only have so many days that you can get all your games in, and you've got to have some of those games in March, and then you hope that Mother Nature behaves herself and you get those games in.
Yeah. Softball's in the same boat, but they are an even 6-6 after their Florida trip. Not all of those games played down in Florida. They had a few before they left.
Yeah, they played in the Mankato Dome. They went 3-1 there, and then went 2-5 down in Florida. And the same with we talked about with Coach Cheetah. Yes, heading down to Florida, they did have 4 games under their belt, but they're playing in a dome, and that's completely different. The game is completely different when you're playing in a dome compared to playing outside in the sunshine and the warm. And again, I think Coach Cheetah would love to have flipped the 2-5 to 5-2 or 5-3, and it's a learning experience. A lot of young players in that lineup and in different positions, and it's going to take a little bit of time for him to work his magic. And he's got a lot of magic up his sleeve, so it's just a matter of time before he gets that team kind of clicking on all cylinders.
Again, small sample size, but Heather Nordland and, I hope I don't mispronounce the first name, Naliva Bork off to hot starts.
Yeah, and Heather was the MIAC Athlete of the Week this week, so congratulations to Heather. And yes, those two are really, it appears from that small sample size, they're going to kind of be the straw that stirs their offensive drink. And I think that both of them have power. And both of them have proven that they can get the job done at the plate. And I'm looking forward to Nadelia. I'm going to have to ask Cheetah how you pronounce it. I'm sorry,
is how I'm saying it for now.
But she does it in the pitcher circle as well. So she's kind of a two-prong weapon for John, and I think we're going to see a lot of her both offensively and in the pitcher circle this year. Sarah Kraus, who pitched a lot last year, has done a very good job in the circle as well. So those two look like they're going to be the 1-2 punch from a pitching staff for the Cardinals.
Donnie, just a few minutes left here. The tennis team's also making a trip down to Florida, playing in 88-degree weather. On grass, a new experience from the Winona Tennis Center.
Absolutely, and just like I said with the baseball and softball, playing outdoors and tennis especially is completely different than when you're playing in the perfect conditions of an indoor facility, and that certainly is an experience, and I think one that they enjoy doing. But I think if you asked any of the tennis players, they'd much rather play inside where it's just temperature controlled, no wind. Yep. They both finished 2-1, so very good performances from both of them, and I think that. It's funny, their seasons they're about at the midway point of their season already. So, they continue to roll on, and both of them are enjoying very successful years and looking forward to more of the same in April and May.
Donnie, in 30 seconds, want to give a shout out to Caroline Guerin and Aiden Gatz, both getting honors at the MIAC this year.
Yeah, Carolyn was all conference in the pole vault with her second place finish, and Aiden finished 4th to earn honorable mention all conference. Great honors for both of them, and really a nice springboard for both of them as they head into the outdoor season. They both are exceptional pole vaulters and will be among the MIAC's best in the outdoor season as well. Yeah.
All right, so now we're going to take you to our interview with two-sport standout athlete George Drouches, an alumna of St. Mary's, who's getting inducted into the St. Mary's Hall of Fame this upcoming weekend on March 11th at the Visions Event Center. Here's our interview with George. And we continue now on the Cardinals Nest as we continue with our series of interviewing our St. Mary's University Hall of Fame inductees. That ceremony is going to be part of the Cardinal Excellence Fund dinner on March 11th at the Visions Event Center in Winona. Donnie, we've been interviewing our Hall of Fame inductees the past few weeks, and now we're going to bring in George Drouches. George is from the class of 1978 and a two-sport standout, Donnie, in both basketball and baseball.
Yep, and George, let me be the first to congratulate you on your induction and welcome to the club.
Donnie, thank you. Thank you very much, Dean. Thank you for having me.
George, I gotta ask right from the get-go, can you just walk us through a little bit about what you thought when you got the call from Brian that you were going into the Hall?
Well, yeah, it's very tearful, very humbling, and tearing up right now. I mean, I cried when I came to St. Mary's on Saturday, and I cried when I left. It's a place that's near and dear to my heart. And if you follow the fellowship of the Christian brothers and live Jesus in your hearts forever, St. Mary's has always been in my heart. So I'm very grateful, very humbling. Thank you.
George, I think it is hard to explain to people who haven't gone to school here at St. Mary's what a special place it is. And you've been alluding to that. And as you mentioned, we had you here this past recent Saturday for
Yes.
some home basketball games and some recognition there before the game of the men's contest. But it really is special in so many ways. What were some of the things that you recall that makes St. Mary's kind of stand out to you as a unique university?
Well, I would say just the closeness of people, just relationships and the friendships built during my 4 years there. I mean, it was just a pleasure to meet so many people, and you knew almost all of them. And basically a very special place where, we humanized, we helped each other, we partied, we did all kinds of things together. And, it's just a very special time in the 70s myself. I mean, just coming there off the train in Minneapolis to Winona in 74 of August. And then, it's just walking up the hill with my bag and finding, Benilde Hall and my roommate. And, it was just a very unique, and very unique time, very, very special time.
What brought you to St. Mary's? What was it that drew you to come here to go to school?
Well, all of my education is, Catholic grade school. I went to Minneapolis de La Salle, which is a Christian Brothers high school. I was mentored by a lot of brothers who had been at St. Mary's, and kind of they bounced back and forth. And, one brother Basil, who I think was a president at St. Mary's, very influential, connected me with brother George Paul, who was a president at that time. And being a Christian Brothers kid and the ability to play basketball and baseball, they kind of encouraged me to attend and, study some of the theology and the philosophy. And it was just a wonderful connection. I'm very grateful for that connection, because otherwise, I'll tell you, when I left De La Salle, I was the only one that went on to higher education and played sports. I'm very, very blessed to have those guys in my life. Brother Francis Carr I met on Saturday when he was at Hill. When I was at De La Salle, he recognized me. So I remembered him, and Brother Raymond Long also there. I mean, once again, so that was the closeness of bringing a skinny 17-year-old kid, on a train to a place I hadn't even heard of.
Well, George, you may have been skinny, but that didn't mean you couldn't excel in two different sports while you were here. So let's get to some of the sports accomplishments. On the basketball side of things, first team All MIAC during both your junior and senior seasons, averaged 15.5 points a game, and you ranked 16th all-time in career scoring at St. Mary's with 1,176 points. Tell us about some of your memories playing basketball here.
Well, first of all, just reflecting upon Saturday, I wish the three-point line would have been in place in the mid-70s.
You might have had more than 1,100 points.
It was a fun time. We had Dr. Pat Costello was my coach for 3 years, and then Ron Donovan my senior year. Had a very close-knit group of guys, especially from the Chicagoland area. We played well together. We respected each other. We didn't agree at times, but we worked hard, and it was a great time. It was a different time period. Very fortunate that I played with guys like Marvin Tunstall, who's in the Hall of Fame. He was my running mate. Unfortunately, Marvin passed away. It was sad. John Brown was another guy. He had passed away. So it's a reflective time. But I would just say, just very blessed to have, fellow athletes who, worked hard. And we had some success in my junior and especially senior year. So I just reflect upon the relationships, the opportunity to compete. Taught me a lot about perseverance and adjusting to pain and how to continue to, to work hard through not only basketball, baseball, and earn a college degree.
You mentioned Pat Costello and Ron Donovan as your basketball coaches. You also had the opportunity to play with probably the most influential coach that St. Mary's has ever had, and that's Max Mowak for baseball. Talk a little bit about what Max taught you about really about life, because Max is the epitome of what St. Mary's is all about.
Yeah, Max was very special. Trying to play two sports was not easy. It's almost unheard of now. But having the opportunity to play for Max taught me a lot about leadership. Taught me a lot about life. Taught me a lot about the balance. Not only as a young kid, but through my senior year, very special man. And by the way, when I left St. Mary's, I took all of what I learned from Max and I moved him over to Cotter High School, where I coached for 4 years. And we probably won 85% of our games. Unfortunately, we were like the Vikings, and we couldn't quite win that state championship. We always finished second. But no, Max was very special. And then I replaced him as the head baseball coach. A very unique transition. His grandchildren played for me at Cotter. A lot of the Cotter kids played for me at St. Mary's. So once again, it was a nice balance between Coach Costello as an English professor, and I was an English major, taught me a lot about some of the finer points of English lit and philosophy and the remnants of a classical education, by the way. And then having the chance to play for Max was very unique. Short hair, above the ears, got to be on time. It's so true today, way ahead of his time. Way ahead of his time.
You have the opportunity. Not only did you get to play two sports at St. Mary's, but you actually got to coach. Actually, you coached 3 sports at St. Mary's, and you coached basketball, you coached baseball, and you coached golf. Talk a little bit about that transition, because you were fresh out of college when you were coaching. 3 sports here at St. Mary's.
Yeah, I was the first kind of full-time coach hire at St. Mary's. And basically, coaching baseball, then coaching basketball, and then coaching golf, which, by the way, Donnie, you were on my golf team. You got to stay behind that five. Stay behind the 5-wood. But that was a special time. It was hard, to be honest. It was very hard to try to play basketball, take your tie, or coach basketball, put your tie in your shirt, and then hit fungos on that wooden floor right after the game. It was very. But it actually taught me how to succeed in life, to balance everything. I also worked for Tony Piscatello, and I saw him on Saturday. He hired me as a recruiter, for the admissions office. And my territory, was St. Louis, by the way, and the East Coast. So I had not only those 3 sports, but I was an admissions counselor. And then what I would do is I'd go out east and bring hockey players in for Don Olson. And then I go to St. Louis and bring, female soccer players for Dan Block, starting up the soccer team back in '82. So it was a very, very unique time, to try to balance all that. And, and I hired Ed Service, who's now been the longtime baseball coach, at Creighton University. He was my first hire in baseball. I paid him $250, and all the change that was left over from our traveling, which was $3 for breakfast, mind you, $5 for lunch, and $7 for dinner. So once again, a different time period in the 80s. So, but it was wonderful relationships with the student athletes, and I'm very proud of the fact that well over 90% graduated within, in 4 years. And that really was our target, to be quite honest with you.
George, can you talk a little bit about what you're doing now? I mean, just kind of tell people what you've been doing since since you left St. Mary's, because really it's been just kind of a whirlwind of officiating.
Yeah, I brokered or parlayed my coaching into officiating. I just finished my 41st year as a college football official, and actually I was officiating football in the MIAC because we didn't have football in the Northern Sun back in 1982, because they figured bringing on a head basketball coach would get us involved. And actually it did. When I left St. Mary's, I stayed in Winona. My son went to Cotter High School and graduated. Then he went to Cornell College in Iowa and graduated. And I worked for Winona Van Norman, which was a wonderful business opportunity. It was difficult, but it taught me a little bit more about leadership, working with a couple hundred rank and file. Then I started my own companies, came back to St. Mary's and helped Brother Lewis start the camp business, which was a good start. And I left there, basically came back up to Minneapolis to help my parents through a difficult health time. And then I joined a auto brokering leasing company. I've been here for 25 years. But in the meantime, I officiated football and basketball and baseball all around the country, all different divisions. Basically worked very hard. And I supervised, by the way. I was reflecting upon last time I told Brian when I came back to St. Mary's, I think it was 15. I supervised the men's and women's basketball officials in the MIAC for 15 years. I don't know if people knew that or not, but that's what I did. And and then I also did the UMAC. And then the NCAA hired me as a Division III national coordinator. And then for the past 9 years, I've been the national coordinator of umpires, as well as a small partner in Auto Porter Leasing Services. So a very blessed, very rigorous life. Enjoyed the officiating, the contacts, and just very blessed to be of service to college baseball right now.
So juggling two sports, coaching two sports, it just carried over into your life after school too.
Yeah, people ask me I don't mean to be arrogant here, but they ask me how do I do all this stuff, and I tell them I pray. I do. I just pray. I put it in the Lord's hands to help me figure out what's the next best thing, but also learned how to balance my time, what's important at that moment. But that's who I am. I'm not the kind of guy you stick in a cubicle. I'd last half a day. I like to work fast, and that's how I think. But that's really all I'm used to be honest with you. When you track my history, whether it's playing as a student athlete, coaching, business world, officiating, all that balance, that's who I am, Donnie and Dean. That's who I am.
Well, you're right. You've been very blessed to have a career in sports, whether it be coaching, officiating, playing, of course, all those years. My last question, George, and then I'll let Donnie ask the final question. My last one is, as you've been returning to St. Mary's over the years, whether it's in review of the MIAC officials or recently for your Hall of Fame induction events, what stands out to you as some of the big changes you've seen and appreciate here on campus?
Well, I would say, my years standing next to Brother Lewis the Thomasist and how he changed the whole culture of St. Mary's, the business side of St. Mary's, the graduate programs, the internet, the international studies, the buildings are just impressive. I would say that was my first reaction coming back is, it's changed quite a bit. In the 70s, it was a different time period. The Vietnam era was changing, the theology component and all of that. Now it's a different time period where the school, once again is going in a different direction technology wise. But I just been very impressed with, what has transpired, the building wise. And I tell you what, I love that gym. I told Brian, tremendous gym, tremendous floor, lighting, scoreboards from when I played and coached. I mean, it was tremendous and very exciting. And Coach Fano's got the team going in the right direction. I was very pleased that they, not only played a playoff game and won one. I never did. My teams never could win those playoff games. But I follow St. Mary's very quietly, to be quite candid with you. I'm very happy for the team, and especially the kid is breaking all my scoring records. You know, it's a tremendous athlete. But no, I just reflect upon the growth of St. Mary's over the years.
Well, I've got to ask. March 11th isn't that far away. Have you started to prepare your speech?
I actually have, and it is completed.
And you're gonna be able to do it without tearing up?
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
Who's introducing you, George?
John Caldwell. He and I were roommates for 2 years.
Oh, okay.
He was a catcher on the St. Mary's baseball teams. You know, once again, great athlete. He played basketball as well. You know, wonderful man. He went to Hill. He followed, the Jerry Hoffman, who's in the Hall of Fame. Jeff Black, by the way, who very, very, good benefactor for the baseball team. You know, that's part of that group, kind of from the Brother Francis Carr era, as you will. So I'm excited to see Johnny. I can tell you the stories we've had they're unbelievable. But I'm excited to see some of the guys from the basketball team. If, the Emmett McGovern, Jeff Norris, wonderful guys I played with are very supportive of St. Mary's. It's now a university. I got to catch myself, St. Mary's College. But lastly, I was reminiscing with Brian. I'll let you go. I was sitting there talking to him, and I remembered when I was coaching, I was also the cheerleading moderator. Little known deal. So my role was to fundraise money to buy the shirts, the sweaters, whatever you call them, the skirts at that time, the red and white shoes, pom-poms, and I did that. And then of course after the game, we get beat by St. John's by like 2 points, and I'm sitting there just beside myself downstairs, and a couple of cheerleaders would come down and complain about other cheerleaders who weren't quite on time, and what they're doing, and somebody's going to a party to take my boyfriend. And I had to listen to that too. So
it's all part of the job, right?
It was fun. It was just reminiscing. I'm appreciative of the gifts St. Mary's taught me, not only as a student athlete, but as a coach, of how to live my life better, how to be of service, and how to succeed by the grace of God.
Well, George Drouches, we appreciate your time here today, and congratulations from all of us here at St. Mary's on your induction into the Sports Hall of Fame. We'll see you on March 11th.
You bet. Thank you for having me.
Take care.
Sir. Yes, have a great day.